if you've ever been at a place before where you felt a little stuck and you wanted to get to that next level, let me tell you something. I can assure you of one thing, and that one thing I can assure you of is I'm going to share something that's going to help you to get unstuck. I'm going to share something with you tonight that's just going to give you just something that you can go back to get you to that place where you begin to just move forward. And so, of course, I want to thank you for joining in. For those of you who are joining in, do me a quick favor. Just go ahead and press star. I'm sorry, I'm speaking to those who are on the conference call line. Those of you who are tuned in right now via the live stream, do me a quick favor and just go ahead and put in your city and your state so I could go ahead and give you a little quick shout out as we get started on this live stream. And so, like always, here's what I want to talk to you. Listen, if you have ever been at a place where you're feeling a little stuck, you feel like you're in a little bit of a slump, and you've been trying to figure out how to get out, I've got something to share with you. I have something that I know is guaranteed to get you back moving forward. So you can get past that stage of frustration. You can get past sort of feeling like, man, you know what? I know I could be making more sales. I know I could be having more fulfilling relationships. I know I could, be in alignment with my purpose. If you're feeling like you're in a little bit of a slump, or if you have ever even been in a slump, I'm going to just empower you and just share something with you that I think is going to be able to help you to get to that next level. So let me go ahead and give a shout out to some people. We got ATL Georgia in the house. All right. We got Martinsburg in the house. Yes. Hey, Teresa. Hey, Moet. How you doing? So glad that you all are tuned in and joined in. I want to thank you so much. For those of you, as you're jumping on, do me a little quick favor and go ahead and put in your city as well as your state, so I could go ahead and give you a quick shout out as we tune in. I'm going to take care of a couple of technical things. For some reason, I can hear myself speaking in my ear through Facebook, but we're going to get started. So do me a little quick favor, and I need to go live right now real quick for those who are on the conference call line. But of course, I want to thank all of you for joining in each and every week on the Show Up For Your Life motivational live stream. And so listen, if you have literally ever been in a slump, or you ever been in some place where you're feeling a little bit of stuck and you've just been trying to figure out how do you get out of that, I'm going to share something with you that I believe is going to get you unstuck. So real quick, before we get started, I just want to give a couple more quick shout outs. If you're just now joining in, before we go ahead and do that, do me two favors for those of you who are just now joining in, because I know that there's something I'm going to share tonight that is going to be a blessing to somebody that you're attached to. It's going to be able to help people. So if you know you've got friends and family members that could use a little inspiration, a little motivation, but not just generic motivation, but specifically people that you know that are looking to get unstuck, that maybe are in a little bit of a funk or a little bit of a slump, and you want to give them some encouragement and you want to give them some steps and some strategies to help them get out of it. Listen, you want to make sure that they get and tune in to this message tonight. Hey, give a quick shout out to my buddy James Perkins. What's going on, James? Hope you're doing fantastic. For those of you who are jumping in, just do me a little quick favor. Put in your city and your state so I can give you a quick shout out. Now, do me a favor. For those of you who are tuned in right now, do me a favor and grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper, because we're going to go ahead and just break down what you need to do if you ever find yourself in a little bit of a slump where you're not quite getting the results that you want, where you find yourself that you're starting to get a little bit frustrated, where maybe things were working out pretty well for you, but now you find that all of a sudden now things are just not working the way that they were before, and you're starting to really get frustrated. As a matter of fact, you're starting to beat yourself up a little bit. And I want to literally give you a couple of key steps and key strategies that you can do that's going to be able to help you to get to that next level. So, of course, I want to give a quick shout out to North Carolina in the house. So I don't want to waste any more time. We're about to dive in the message. And so here's what I want to talk to you about tonight. You know, a lot of times when we find ourselves in a little bit of a slump, or we find ourselves feeling a little stuck, we're hoping that we're going to get some kind of magic wand, some kind of magical formula is going to pop up. And a lot of times we're expecting whatever it is that is going to help us to get to the next level or help us to get out of the slump. We're thinking that it needs to be something really sophisticated. We're thinking that it needs to be something really elaborate. For those of you who are entrepreneurs and business owners out there, maybe perhaps if you've been in a slump before, you're thinking you need to implement some kind of new social media strategy. You're thinking that you need some kind of new software. You need to make sure that you're incorporating some kind of new technology. And so a lot of times we begin to think that the answer has to be complex, or we believe that the answer has to be something very magical. Or maybe perhaps right now, for those of you who are in a struggling relationship or a struggling marriage, you're trying to figure out, how do I get this relationship back to where we're excited and we're happy and we're thriving, communication is great, and things are back to where they used to be. And sometimes you're thinking that the answer has to be complex, like maybe we need months of counseling. Maybe we're gonna have to have a big sit down with some people, a big massive intervention. Or maybe if you're somebody right now that at one point your health was where you wanted to be, your weight was where you wanted to be, and you've been struggling with your weight, you've been struggling with your health, and you've been trying to figure out how do you get back to where you were, and you're thinking it's going to be some kind of magical diet, some kind of magical pill and so forth. And let me be the first one to tell you that a lot of times that is not the answer. That is not what is going to help you to get unstuck. And so I want to propose to you that maybe perhaps all that you have to do in order to get unstuck is to go back to the basics. In other words, I'm going to invite you to go back to that point in that stage in your life where things were going well in your relationship, where things were going well in your business, where things were going well in your finances, where things were possibly going well for your health, and look back and think about what were the key things that you were doing at that time. What were the key activities that you were doing? And it doesn't matter if you were only successfully doing it for a week or just a month or just a few short months. But if whatever period of time you were producing the results and things were working for you, what I want you to understand is sometimes you have to be willing to go back to the basics and go back to those things that you know are going to be able to help you to absolutely get unstuck. And so hopefully some of you are still able to tune on. I think I got a quick message. Somebody is telling me we're having some connection issues, but hopefully you're still connecting with me here. But here's what I want you to understand is that it's not as complex as we always want to make it. Sometimes we got to be willing, listen carefully, we got to be willing to get back to the basics. And so for those of you right now who are in business, was there ever a time in your business where things were going well? Was there ever a time that you were making some sales? Was there ever a time that you were bringing in new customers and new clients? Was there ever a time where you were growing and scaling your business? When you were growing and scaling your business, when you were bringing on new clients, when things were actually working for you, when you were in the flow, for lack of a better word, what were you doing at that time? What were you doing at that moment? And here's what I believe. If you can go back and focus on what those key activities that you were doing are and learn to incorporate those key activities, I can assure you this, those things will help you to get the ball moving again. Those things will help you to begin to kick it up a notch. And so I know you want it to be so much more complex than that. For those of you right now, you have a relationship that is really challenging right now, that things just aren't the way that they used to be. Well, I want to take you back. What about the time when the relationship was going well? When communication was great, when intimacy was there, when all those key aspects, those things that you value so much in a relationship was there? Let me ask you a question. What were you doing at that time? What were you doing? Were you making sure that you're investing quality time? Were you making sure that you had a lot of face-to-face time? Were you getting rid of all the extra television and the telephones that are distractions? Were you making sure that you're making a relationship a priority? I can assure you of this. If you can find a way, if you can literally find a way to go back to doing some of those basics, those things that were working for you then, I can assure you that if you incorporate them again, it will help you to begin to propel forward. It will help you to get unstuck. And one of the reasons why I felt inspired to sort of share that with you was because it made me think about, I had an opportunity to see a gentleman, his name is Alan Stein. And I saw Alan Stein was sort of sharing this message, the story that he was sharing. And Alan Stein, he is probably one of the most well-respected, well-known athletic trainers. And so he is an athletic trainer. He helps like top performing athletes, like professional athletes, to work on their body conditioning and really enhance their skills. And he was talking about how back in 2007, he had a very special opportunity to be able to sit in on a private workout session with the one and only Kobe Bryant. Now, most of you know who Kobe Bryant is. If for some reason you don't know who Kobe Bryant is considered possibly one of the best NBA players of all time. This guy was a phenomenal NBA player, one of the top scorers, dynamic, NBA player. And he says that it literally, when you watch this guy play, he was explosive. There are times that, I mean, he shattered and broke records, and he just had a certain will to win. And so he was so excited to be able to see Kobe Bryant, one of the top NBA players of all time. He had an opportunity to sit in one of his private workout sessions. And here's what Alan Stein said. He said that he couldn't believe it. He said he got to watch Kobe Bryant work out early in the morning in a private workout session for 2 hours. And he said that after the 2 hours, he was literally bored out of his mind. And he said he couldn't believe that one of the #1 players in the world, especially at that time in 2007, he said he couldn't believe that this dynamic, amazing NBA player that was so explosive, that does all these magical moves, he couldn't believe that when he sat in for his private workout session, that all he was doing was the most basic workout routines that you can think of. He was working on his footwork and just working on some basic shots. And he said, man, he just couldn't believe that somebody could be that great. And he's just expecting to see some kind of magic in the guy's workout session. And he said it was just so basic. All he was doing was all the basic drills, all the basic workout sessions. And so he said when he was done, he had an opportunity to go up to Kobe Bryant. And when he went up to Kobe Bryant, he said, Kobe, man, he said, it's crazy, but it's like, how is it that you are literally one of the best NBA players in the world? And I just had an opportunity to sit in and watch you do a private workout session, and it was just so boring. Why does, like, one of the best NBA players in the world, why is it that you're doing the most basic drills, the basic footworking drills, the basic shooting drills? Why is that? And when he asked that question of Kobe Bryant sort of chuckled, and he sort of looked at him and said, why do you think I'm the best player in the world? And I want you to think about that for a moment. One of the best players in the world's private workout session is completely just focused on one thing: mastering the basics, doing those things that has gotten him to where he is at that moment, doing those key fundamental activities that has allowed him to become one of the best NBA players of all time. And so here's what I want you to understand, that regardless of what industry you're in, or regardless of what you have going on, whether it is in a personal relationship, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your business, whether it has to do with your health, regardless of what it has to deal with, whether it has to deal with some of your key relationships, understand this: if you're feeling like you're in a little bit of a slump, if you're feeling like you're a little stuck and you want to get to that next level, what I want you to understand, it's not always as complicated as we try to make it. What you have to simply be willing to do is you got to be willing to get back to the basics. That's it. You got to get back to the basics. You have to go back to those moments where you were having success. You got to get back to those moments where things were working out, and you have to go back to doing those activities again. And that is the key to at least creating some momentum to start getting you moving again. Now, do me a favor, for those of you who are with me right now live streaming, do me a quick favor, put hashtag back to the basics, hashtag back to the basics. And because I believe that that is literally the missing formula. That's the thing that so many of us are missing out on. You see, we are looking for complexity. We're looking for things that, you know, we're looking for like the magic solution. We're looking for the new software. We're looking to implement like some kind of new ninja type strategy. And what we fail to realize a lot of times, that at the end of the day, we just got to simply learn to get back to those things that we were doing effective, and those things that have worked out for us in the past. So I want you to resume and go back to doing the basics, those things that have absolutely worked out for you in the past. So go ahead and do me a quick favor in the comment section, put hashtag back to the basics, hashtag back to the basics. That's just going to be your way of letting me know that you are really adamant. You understand what I mean about just simply going back to the basics and making some things work. Now, here's the other reason why I was making sure that I was bringing this thing up for you, because what I realized, and one of the things that I think that so many of us have to really just begin to leverage and begin to work on, I look back at my life and I think about anytime that I felt like I started getting into a slump, if I got into a slump in my business, what I would find right away is if I began to examine my business, I knew that there was just some key activities that I used to do that I probably wasn't doing. Number one, it probably meant that I haven't been recently getting in front of enough people. In other words, I probably haven't actively been seeking opportunities to get in front of an audience, speaking opportunities. So I haven't reached out to some people who are champions of mine and see if there's introductions that could be made. I hadn't been reaching out to people who've heard me speak before. I hadn't been reaching out to people who've booked and hired me before. And also there's a probability that I also wasn't following up on potential leads and people that I've connected with. So I'm not getting on the phone with people. And so what happens is, as much as I would like to think that it's something complex or it's something I got to try to figure out, a lot of times it really just goes back to something basic. Like if I feel a little bit of a disconnection in a relationship, or if I feel like there's something going on and maybe there's not the level of connection with my wife, a lot of times it is just a matter of going back to the basic. It probably just means, hey, what do we normally do when things are going well? Oh, we made time to make sure we go for a walk, or we made time to sit down together and speak over some dinner, right? We made time to do some key activities where we're having face-to-face time so that we can resume and make sure that we have intimacy, make sure we're having dialogue, make sure we're showing to one another that we're very important to one another. So oftentimes it wasn't really something complex. It was really something basic. Health-wise, if you're feeling like, man, I'm in a slump, I haven't necessarily been doing the things I need to do, well, guess what? A lot of times it's not about finding some kind of secret shake or formula you got to drink. A lot of times it goes back to you doing some key things that you did, like making sure that you worked out for at least 30 minutes a day, making sure that maybe you were at least eliminating some things that that are not necessarily the best things for your diet. It's really not a bunch of complex stuff. A lot of times it's a matter of you just getting back to the very basic. Now, here's one of the things that I've come to realize when it comes to our lives and even observing those around us is that success leaves clues. And not only that, but even your personal successes will leave clues for you. And so your past successes will leave clues for you. And so when you go back to when you were closing the deals, right? When you were creating the connections, where you were bringing on new clients, when you were actually getting promotions, when you were actually having the type of relationship that you wanted, when your health was where you wanted it to be, there's probably just some simple, basic activities that you were doing. And you can look back at times where you were having success. And it doesn't matter how short-lived the success was. It doesn't matter if the success was only a week. It doesn't matter if it was only a month. It doesn't matter if it was only 6 months. It doesn't matter if it was only a year. Understand this, that there's probably some clues that you can go back to and revisit and begin to incorporate those things once again. And if you can start engaging in those key activities again, then guess what begins to happen? You begin to create momentum, and you begin to get out of the slump, and you begin to shift forward and move forward. And so I want you right now to start thinking about, what's a place in your life right now where maybe you're like, you know what, I'm feeling a little frustrated here, Andy. This was an area in my life where at one point things were going well. Like at one point I was doing really good with my health. At one point I was working out. At one point I was eating the right things, or maybe it was a point in your business. You said, man, Andy, at one point my business was thriving, man. I was bringing on new clients. I was servicing new clients. I was getting leads and referrals. Things were going great. Or maybe it has to do with your relationship. Andy, at one point, man, this relationship was amazing. We had great intimacy. We're spending a lot of time with one another. I look forward to speaking to this person. We would spend quality face-to-face time, and now it just seems like there's a disconnect. Well, here's what I want you to understand. If you go back to those moments where things were working out, when you were in the flow, for the lack of a better word, right? That there's probably some key things that you were doing that if you can incorporate those things again, that all of a sudden now you'll find yourself in a situation where things are going to the next level. I remember there was one particular time where, I just felt like I was in a little bit of a slump. And so what's amazing is people believe that, when you're a person that you're delivering motivational speeches and you're making things happen, it means that you're immune and you're not susceptible. But even when you're the one encouraging people most of the time, that you yourself can get into a mental slump where maybe you're beating yourself up, or you find yourself comparing yourself to other people or whatever it might be. And so I know that there's been times, definitely been times, where I found myself in a little bit of a slump where I was beating myself up. Maybe I was just focused on the wrong thing. Maybe I had a victory and I came off the victory, and maybe I didn't celebrate the victory, and I was already feeling like, man, there's something else I got to accomplish. And just not feeling like I was hitting on all cylinders, not feeling that I was showing up the way that I normally like to show up. And I can tell you, when you get in that state, you can literally begin to beat yourself up, and you can find yourself focusing on all the things that aren't going wrong, right. And so you start focusing on what's not going well in your business, what you haven't done. And what happens is, the more you begin to focus on those things, unfortunately, wherever your attention goes, your energy flows. Okay, I need you to understand that. Wherever your attention goes, your energy flows. So if you're spending a whole lot of your time and your energy focusing on what's not working out, what hasn't exactly been kicking off for you, then oftentimes that normally literally begins to escalate, and it actually gets larger. But here's what I want you to understand. In those moments, I had to literally, the only way I could shake myself out of it is I had to think for a moment and go back to, man, Andy, when were things going well for you in this particular area? And when they were going well for you, what are the things that you were doing? And so I remember one time feeling like I was in a little bit of a slump and things weren't going well. And I realized that there's something that I was doing on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I have a notepad that I would pull out, and I would rewrite my goals every single day in first person, right? And when I say first person, in first person context, not saying that this is something that I want to do, but I would write the things down as if it's something that I've already accomplished. So if, let's say, when it came to my book, I would say, I am a New York Times best-selling author of the book Show Up for Your Life, 7 Principles to Live an Extraordinary Life. I've sold hundreds of thousands of copies. My book has been translated in various languages, right? That I am in peak health performance. I work out on a weekly basis and so forth. So I used to write these goals down consistently. And what I realized when I got in a little bit of a slump, what I realized is that I found myself getting busy and caught up in all these daily activities, and I stopped doing those things that were working for me. And so here's what I want you to understand. A lot of times we get caught up in life and caught up in the daily routine, and we stop doing the things that were working for us. And that's why I'm telling you, you got to get back to the basics. Somebody do me a favor right now, put hashtag back to the basics, hashtag back to the basics, because that is the key for you to get unstuck. That is the key for you now to start creating a shift and the momentum begin to change. And let me tell you what happened for me. When all of a sudden I started grabbing that notepad and I started writing down my goals again, it began to create like a mental shift for myself. And one new discipline, that key activity, led me to do something else that I wasn't doing, which led me to do something else that I wasn't doing, which led me to do something else. And when I started to put in those key activities again, right, those key daily activities, Jim Rohn, who is perhaps one of the greatest thought leaders of the past, unfortunately, he's no longer alive, but Jim Rohn is the one who had the audiobook called The Art of Exceptional Living. It was Jim Rohn who said that we must all suffer from one of two disciplines and pain in life. He said the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. He says the difference is discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. It was Jim Rohn who said, when the end comes for you, let it find you conquering a new mountain and not sliding down an old slippery slope. That Jim Rohn also said this, that success is a few simple discipline exercise each and every single day. And so a lot of times when you're feeling stuck, you want things to be complex. But here's what I want you to understand. A lot of times it's just a matter of you going back to the basics. When things were working, I guarantee you, when things were working, you were probably doing some simple things consistently, like making the phone calls. You were probably consistently reaching out and asking for the referrals. You were probably consistently making sure that you're waking up early and working out. You're probably consistently making sure that you're eating the right things. You're probably consistently making sure that you are spending time with your loved ones and those key relationships that you wanted to build. There's some simple things that you were probably doing that you got away from. And so what I want you to do is I want you to get back to the basics. So somebody do me a favor again, hashtag back to the basics, hashtag back to the basics. And the reason why I keep sort of driving that down, because that's what this is about. I want to help you to just err on simplicity. You see, what I find is that oftentimes the thing that's going to get you unstuck and the thing that's going to get you to the next level is not that complexity that you're looking for. You see, when that guy sat in, when Alan Stein sat in and he got to see, you know, Kobe Bryant, the most amazing, dynamic NBA player at that particular time back in 2007, he thought that when he sat in on Kobe Bryant's private workout session that he was going to see all the glitz and glamour and all these special moves and all these amazing, ridiculous workout routines. But at the end of the day, when he sat in and saw Kobe Bryant, he's like, whoa, wait a second here. This guy is doing nothing but basic practice drills. And like I tell you, when finally he told Kobe, he said, man, wait a second, man, how are you the best NBA player on the planet at this particular time? And you literally are doing the same basic workout moves that, you know, beginners do, right? And Kobe chuckled and said to him, why do you think I'm one of the best? And I repeat that for you because I need you to get that. You may not just get it just for me repeating that, but if you can get that visual, if you could think about somebody who's at the top of their game, who's making extraordinary things happen, and that person who's at the top of their game is still making sure that they're doing the basic activities on a daily basis. Let me tell you something that my wife shared with me, and I'll never forget this. And I'm going to share 3 very powerful points with you, steps that I want you to take to help you to get unstuck, to help you to get to that next level. Do me a quick favor right now. Those of you who are tuned in, do me a quick favor. Share this right now, because I'm going to share something that I believe is going to help people to get unstuck and get them to that next level. Do me a quick favor, hit the share button. And once you do that, in the comment section, put hashtag shared. That's just going to let me know that you went ahead and you shared this message. Put hashtag shared, and that lets me know that you shared the message. And I'm going to go into this because I think that this is going to put things in a perspective for you. My wife was at a super big conference, and one of the keynote speakers, one of the guest speakers, was the one and only, the amazing John C. Maxwell. And so perhaps many of you have heard of John C. Maxwell. John C. Maxwell is probably one of the leading authorities when it comes to leadership. And John C. Maxwell has literally traveled all across the globe and is one of the leading authorities on leadership. Not only that, but he has written literally countless New York Times best-selling books. And when I'm talking about countless, I mean, I don't even know how many best-selling books that this man has had. And not only that, but his books have been translated in so many different languages and distributed all across the world, in all these different countries. And across the world, he is known as literally one of the leaders, thought leaders, when it comes to leadership. And she said, here is John C. Maxwell on the stage. And she says that there ends up being an opportunity to ask John C. Maxwell a question. And somebody asked John C. Maxwell a question. And here's what they asked him. Here's what they said. They said, Mr. Maxwell, you are absolutely amazing, sir. I've read so many of your books on leadership, and you are this amazing, multiple books. I mean, I don't know how many books. This guy has written dozens of books. And he's saying, and the guy from the audience just says, sir, I just want to know, how have you been able to literally be able to put out so many amazing books? I mean, I've digested so many books, and so many times when I think you can't come out with another great book, you come out with another amazing book. The guy was like, how do you find the motivation? How do you get the discipline? How is it that you're able to do this thing and make it happen? And here is what John C. Maxwell shared. And here is where the lesson is. You may think that he had something complex to say, and here's what John C. Maxwell said. He said, every single day, there are 3 things that I make sure that I do. He said, I read, I write, and I file. He said, and the guy in the stage was like, okay, all right, well, what about when you're out and you are speaking and you're delivering all these different keynotes and you're going to all these different places? He says, even when I'm doing that, he says, I still do the exact same three things on a daily basis. I read something, I write, and I file. And he says, well, what about on your birthday? What do you do then? He says, I read, I write, and I file. He said, well, what about when you are on vacation or when you are, you're celebrating your anniversary? He says, I still find time to read, to write, and to file. And so he says that has been his key to literally writing all these best-selling books. And so the guy who was out in the audience, he wanted something complex. He wanted him to say something that was going to be magical, to make him think that, wow, you really got to do something really amazing to be able to pump out those books. And at the end of the day, John C. Maxwell, it just basically masters the basic. He masters the mundane. He reads, he writes, and he files on a daily basis. And so here's what I want you to understand, that what's going to help you to get unstuck, to get out of a slope, or if you've been having some success and to help you to have some more consistent success, it's going to require that you go back to the basics. I want you to think about those moments in which you were hitting on all cylinders, those moments when you were having success, those moments when you were closing the clients, those moments when you were producing the type of revenue that you wanted, those moments that you were having the kind of relationship that you wanted, those moments that you were in optimal physical health, those moments that you literally felt as if like, man, all these things are going so well. I want to remind you that those moments, that success leaves clues. And if you can go back and examine those moments, a lot of times it is going to show you what you need to resume and continue to do to get unstuck. And hopefully you understand. So here's what I want you to understand. There are three things that you need to do, three simple steps. Anytime that you begin to feel as if you're stuck, anytime that you're starting to hope that you could create a little shift to get to that next level, there's three things that you need to do. Number one, the first thing is I want you to reflect back on a time when you were having success in your relationship. Reflect back on the time when you were having success in your relationship. I want you to reflect back on a time when you were having success in your business. Reflect back on a time when you were having success in your career. Reflect back on a time when you were having some success in your health, in your relationships. Listen, now, don't tell me this, oh, Andy, but what if I've never had success? Listen, you've had some level of success. It might have been short-lived. It might have been 5 minutes. Maybe you only worked out for those 5 minutes. Maybe you were intentional about spending time with your family and your children for a whopping 5 minutes. Maybe you did that one key activity in your business for 5 minutes that led to the client. But regardless of how long it was, there's probably a time that you did do something and it led to a positive result. It led to some level of success. I want you to reflect back, whatever area right now that you're trying to get unstuck, whatever area right now that you're trying to get back or go to another level, I want you to reflect at a moment, whatever time that was, that you were having some success. So number one, reflect back to a moment that you're having success. Now, number two, here's what I want you to do. I want you to identify key activities that worked for you at that time. What were you doing at that time that was allowing you to have success? Were you making phone calls? Were you following up on leads? Were you turning off your cell phone and making sure that you're spending quality time with your wife or with your husband and with your children? Were you waking up early in the morning and making sure that you're working out? Did you go into the pantry and get rid of all the junk and all the candy and all the things that you know that weren't necessarily good for you? Were you reaching out to certain people and saying, hey, let's collaborate, let's make some things happen? What are the key activities that you were doing at that time that led you to having some success? If you can get back to those key activities, I can tell you this, if you can identify what those key activities are, then you all of a sudden now you begin to hold some of the key aspects and the key elements that you need to get out of the slump. And so finally, here's the last thing that you're going to have to do. Remember, I'm going to run them back for you. Number one, you got to reflect back to the time that you were having some success. What was the time you were having success in your business? What was the time you're having success in your career? You having success in your relationship? Maybe you're having success in your health. It doesn't mean you're having success in all of those areas at one point in time, but whatever area that you want to work on now, what was the time that you were having success in that particular area in your life? Reflect back. Now, once you reflected back, identify what the key activities are. What are the activities that you were doing? Were you waking up early? Were you making sure that were you reading audiobooks? Were you writing down your goals? Were you making the phone calls? Were you working out on a daily basis? Were you making sure that you reserved a certain day of the week to make sure that you were spending quality time with your family and so forth? Whatever that is, those are some of the key activities that you know has worked for you in the past. And then finally, this is where you put it to work. This is what you have to do. You have to get back to the basics. And all that means is you go back and you begin to incorporate those activities that have worked for you in the past, and you make them work for you again by doing them again and doing them again and doing them again. Because success is a few simple disciplines that you exercise when? Every single day. Do me a favor right now. If you're getting some value from this and what I'm sharing with you right now, do me a quick favor. Go ahead and share this message. And when you do, go ahead and put hashtag shared, hashtag shared. That's going to let me know real quick that you shared this message. So hit the share button and then put hashtag shared. And that's going to let me know that you shared this message, because I believe that there's somebody you connected to that they may just catch just a little part of this message. Right? They don't need the whole, they may not even need the whole thing, but there's something that they're going to catch that's going to make them, you know what? There was a time that my relationship was working well. There was a time when my health was where I wanted to be. There was a time where I was doing some key activities, and I'm going to get back to doing those things again. And if you know that you're there, what I'm saying is get back to those key basics. And so here's what I got to say to you, and here's what I want you to understand. Listen, it happens to the best of us, all of us. Right? There are going to be times where you find yourself sort of in a bit of a slump. In other words, there'll be an area in your life where maybe perhaps things were going well and you felt like you were moving upwards. And then all of a sudden, things happen and you just feel like you're just not yourself, right? You just feel as if you're not producing or getting the results that you were getting at one particular time. And so maybe you were going to the gym consistently, you started eating the right things, and then all of a sudden life got in the way, and so you stopped going to the gym, you start eating the wrong things. Maybe there was a time that your relationship at home and with key people, with your family and those that are most important to you, those relationships were thriving, things were going great. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a little bit of a slump, and you're finding that some of those key relationships are not the way they used to be. You're not having that level of intimacy with your husband or with your wife, that you feel as if you haven't been able to spend that key time with your children. Or maybe perhaps you're a person where you're saying, you know what, there was that time where things were going very well for me in my career and also in my business. And you were getting clients, the promotions were coming in, you're feeling purpose and fulfillment in what it is that you're doing. And then all of a sudden things weren't happening. Now, when you get in that slump, a lot of times you begin to look out around and you're trying to find what's the magic formula. What's the thing that everybody else is doing? Like what's the social media app that everybody's using now? Or what's the secret software that I need to implement? What's the special diet that I need to do? What's the amazing new workout plan that's the newest and awesome and most popular thing at the moment? Or do I need to go to like some kind of 6-month retreat or something like? And so a lot of times we think it has to be like something really like amazing and glamorous and so forth, and that's what's going to help us to get unstuck. Well, guess what? That's not it. Most of the time, you know what it is? You just got to go back to the basics. You just got to go back to the things that used to work for you. That's all you got to do. You got to look back at those moments where you're having success, figure out what were the things that you were doing at that time, and get back to doing those things again. And so at the end of the day, all I'm asking you to do is to simply get back to the basics. Somebody do me a favor right now as we wrap this up. Put hashtag back to the basics. Hashtag back to the basics. And so hopefully I've equipped you with just something simple, because I believe that there's power in simplicity. You know, somebody said that, you know, oftentimes the things that allow us to get to the level that we want to be is just simply going to be some of the most simplistic things. And we got to be willing to master the mundane, right? It's not always going to be a lot of glitz and glamour, but it's going to be so basic and so simple. And all I'm asking you to do is simply get back to the basics. Get back to the basics. And so hopefully you got some great value from that message. And so I'm super excited. I want to make a little quick announcement. I want to remind those of you who are out there. I know many of you who are tuned in right now, some of you, you are service professionals. In other words, you are in a business in which you provide a service. Some of you also are speakers, you are coaches, or you are aspiring speakers and coaches. Well, I want to extend a very special invitation for you, because I just released the dates for my next Master Storyteller Academy. And so for those of you, if you've been around now, you probably have heard of my Master Storyteller Academy, but my Master Storyteller Academy is a 3-day transformational training process, in where literally I can assure you the way that you come in for those 3 days of training and the way that you leave will be completely different. And I can tell you this, here's my key promise to you, that I don't care what level you're at, whether you're a beginner or if you're already a seasoned professional, whatever level you're at, I can assure you of this: when you come to the Master Storyteller Academy, however you deliver your story, your signature story, however you deliver it, I can assure you of this: you are going to take it to the next level. And the reason why is because I take you through a very unique training process to help you to be able to master your signature story, figure out what it is, to be able to position your story and deliver it with confidence, and strategically deliver it in a way so that your customers and your clients want to go deeper with you, so that they want to buy your products and your services, so that they actually want to continue the relationship with you, so that you actually have people invite you back to come speak, so that you actually create opportunities for you to speak. And for those of you who have products and services, so that you can actually attract the right kind of people to buy your products and your services. Listen, the Master Storyteller Academy is where master storytellers are born, but most importantly, it is where you learn to leverage one of the most underutilized skill sets and learn how to master the art of sharing and telling your story strategically, right? So that you can be able to literally be able to have more influence, to be able to attract more customers and more clients, and ultimately have more impact, which ultimately also leads you to having more income. And so for those of you who've been meaning to make it out to one of my trainings, I want you to head on over to masterstorytelleracademy.com, masterstorytelleracademy.com. I just released the dates for my next training. And like always, I have a limited amount of spots available. And so all you have to do is head on over there, fill out the super quick application. It'll take you less than literally 1 minute to fill out the application. And somebody from my office will get in contact with you once we schedule you for a quick call to just get on the phone with you and give you the details so that you can make a decision as to whether or not you're going to join us for the Master Storyteller Academy. And so once again, that's masterstorytelleracademy.com. Super excited about this next training that's coming up, and for those of you who are going to be joining me. So once again, I just want to remind you, we all get in the slump sometimes. There are going to be some seasons in life where you're just feeling like, man, I don't know what's going on. I just don't feel like I'm hitting on all cylinders. Things are not working out the way that I used to, or I'm getting a little bit of a slump, or I just can't seem to get past this stage right here. And I want to remind you that you just got to get back to the basics. Go back. Remember the 3 steps that I gave you real quick. I'm going to tell you one more time. You got to reflect back to when you were having success in your relationship, when you were having success in your finances, your relationship, whatever area that you're looking to get unstuck in. Go back to a time, a period, no matter how short it was, where you were having success. And then when you reflect back, identify what were the key activities that you were doing at the time. And then I want you to get back to the basics. That means that you go back to implementing those key activities and you do them again. And I can tell you this, if you begin to do that again, guess what happens? You get out of the funk and you begin to now start pushing forward and great things begin to happen. And so I'm hoping that somebody has gotten a great value from that, and that's definitely going to be able to help you out. And so do me a quick favor. For those of you, if you haven't already shared it, make sure you share this message, and I'm going to tune out. But if you got value from this message, do me a favor, in the comment section, put hashtag yes, yes. Hashtag yes, yes. That lets me know that you got some great value from tonight's message. But like always, I want to thank all of you for tuning in and joining me for this live stream. You know, I don't take it lightly that you spend this time with me. I really, truly appreciate it. And hopefully you got some great value from this message this evening. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. God bless.